this is Sheffield Live 93.2 FM with
Susie Casson
and with me, Andrew Tildersley. And joining us in the studio is Amy Smith from Nightstop. Hello.
Hi.
So Nightstop, people might not have heard of it because it's a sort of new venture for Sheffield, but it's a national thing. Can you tell us a bit more about what Nightstop is?
Yeah, Nightstop is basically offers emergency accommodation for homeless young people aged 16 to 25. And what's unique about Nightstop is that those nights of accommodation are offered in the homes of volunteer hosts. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a different approach to homelessness in Sheffield.
Yeah, and a lot of places, I guess, because you're used to the idea of having a night shelter or something like that, Salvation Army, somewhere where there's lots of beds together, or maybe some individual rooms, but it's a kind of collective thing. But are you more looking at sort of families taking in just an individual?
Yeah, anybody really who has a spare room.
Yeah.
All that we ask really is that somebody has a spare room and they're open-minded to the idea of a young person coming into their home. We ask that they can offer somewhere that they can get a wash, maybe wash their clothes, and just provide an evening meal and breakfast again in the morning. Mm-hmm. So our house Nightstop runs around the country. We've got 33 other Nightstops. It's just brand new into Sheffield. So it's entirely flexible. It's completely based on as and when people can offer any nights of accommodation. And it's just a really successful model. Young people certainly appreciate that somebody's offering them their home.
Yeah. And it sounds quite daunting potentially to sort of do that, but you're saying it's successful. So there's 33 other, it's not 33 homes, it's 33 kind of coordinating bodies around the country.
Yeah, it's 33 separate night stops. Our nearest ones operate in sort of Leeds, Bradford, York, North Yorkshire. And yeah, the idea of opening your home to a stranger must be daunting for anybody. But equally, I think I'd say that the idea of turning up at a stranger's home and asking for a bed for the night for a young person is more daunting potentially. Yeah. Safety is paramount for us with Nightstop, so obviously we conduct a really, really thorough risk assessment of young people to make sure that we're aware potentially of any risks and if we can manage them, just to make sure that we're not putting hosts potentially at risk. And also obviously the hosts have to go through quite a thorough vetting procedure as well, to make sure that obviously there's no risk posed to young people. So safety is paramount to everybody. And I mean, we have over 600 households that volunteer their homes currently around the UK. So I think those numbers sort of speak for themselves,
the
really.
model must be successful for that
Definitely.
to carry on. Yeah. So what sort of people are you working with, young people and sort of volunteer hosts?
I think in terms of hosts come in all different shapes and sizes. There is no stereotypical host. There's no model, I suppose. We've got people that might have young professionals that are working. We might have people with their own families. We might have people that are possibly retired and their own children have moved out. We've got people from sort of absolutely every walk of life in lots of different situations. So it just sort of shows anybody can host, and I think everybody can get something out of doing it.
Fantastic. You've got an information session this evening to tell people more sort of face-to-face. Where's that at?
That's going to be at our hub, which is at Cumberland House. It's on Eyre Street, which is opposite Decathlon. So we've got an information session this evening between 6 and 7 o'clock. So it's for anybody who's interested in becoming a host or just finding out a little bit more about Nightstop. Mm-hmm. We're also recruiting for volunteer drivers. So they're to help young people make their way from wherever they are to the host home, because as I've already said, it's really daunting for them just turning up at a stranger's door. So the idea is that the drivers just help break those barriers down and make the young person feel more comfortable and introduce them to their host, making that placement more likely to go ahead. The information session's this evening, so we'd invite anybody to come along between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock this evening to our office at Cumberland House on Eyre Street. And from
examples in other areas, what sort of is there a length of stay that's an average or a longest that you have from the...
We provide accommodation purely on a night-by-night basis, so hosts aren't asked to commit any particular amount of time. It's just as and when. So if they can offer one night in a week, then that might be all that they offer. But Nightstop as a service, we're looking to offer up to around 14 nights of accommodation, but that wouldn't all be with the same person. We'd expect it may be with a number of different hosts. That time maybe longer or shorter, dependent on the available housing options for that young person to find a longer term solution.
So it's still a kind of emergency housing option.
Yeah.
And a Nightstop involved with kind of local authorities and charities to kind of get the young people along that road.
Yeah, I mean, we're funded through Players of the People's Postcode Lottery, and yeah, we're sort of looking at anybody really being able to refer. So any agency working with a young person, whether that's college, it could be the local authority. So if a young person presents there in need of emergency accommodation, we would expect to see those referrals coming in. And again, it could be any agency really working with young people that comes across somebody with nobody to stay that evening.
Yeah. And how did you personally get involved with Nightstop?
I've worked for Nightstop is run really by DePaul, so they're a national homelessness charity. They're quite new in Sheffield. They came into Sheffield last year. So I've been working for them. We have an accommodation-based service that provides dispersed accommodation for young people. So that's kind of how I became involved with DePaul, and as such heard about Nightstop and absolutely love the idea. So as soon as the opportunities come up to get involved, I've jumped straight in. Previous to that, I've spent the last 10 years working, doing sort of frontline work with vulnerable young people and families around Sheffield and South Yorkshire. And
have you noticed any sort of change over that time in the prevalence of kind of youth homelessness? Or
I think that it's difficult to measure, because I think there's a lot of hidden homelessness, particularly with youth homelessness. We see a lot of young people kind of staying with friends or friends of friends, and
classic sofa surfing.
And that's hard to measure. I think equally it's difficult. I think we're in times of austerity, and everybody's budgets are sort of being squeezed really. So not, provisions are there, and the council are working really hard to maintain provisions, but I just think the nature of what we do, I think something like Nightstop just fits really well into that and will complement the work that's already going on around Sheffield.
It's a kind of an extra community response is the quote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, and that's how Nightstop came about. It was, it started in Leeds back in 1989, and it was a call from the church to sort of say we have a problem with homelessness here in our city, and actually the community can do something about this, and that's what's so great about Nightstop. It's just a really practical way somebody can make a real difference to a young person's life, and if it prevents them entering that cycle of homelessness, it just is going to have a massive impact on their future. Yeah,
because that cycle can get very hard to break out.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. So for people that maybe don't have a spare room, or there's lots of people that wouldn't be in a position to help Nightstop in the conventional way. Is there anything else they can do? Can they get involved in any other way?
Definitely. We've got a range of volunteer opportunities for Nightstop. As I've already mentioned, we're looking for volunteer drivers. So if somebody has a vehicle and they'd be willing to support a young person to get to and from Nightstop placements. We're also looking for chaperones, so somebody that could potentially help a young person use public transport. Not a lot of young people are always very confident in finding their own way in places that they don't know, so we kind of see those roles as being really important. We also, obviously the young person leaves the host home in the morning, so we have a hub in our office down at Eyre Street, and we're looking to get a programme of activities set up there so that young people have got something they can access during the day if they've got nowhere else to go. So we're looking for volunteers to support us with those activities, if anybody has a particular skill set that they could bring. And also we're looking for mentors to support a young person around a specific goal. So it could be somebody wanting to access college or find employment. It could be any goal that they've identified, and it's just sort of a volunteer mentor to give them a little bit of extra support around achieving that goal. Yeah,
fantastic. So loads of opportunities to get involved. So could you just give us the details of the information session this evening again?
Yeah, the information session is at our office at Cumberland House, which is on Eyre Street. It's opposite Decathlon. That's from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock. You can also get in touch with us. You can call our office at any time, which is 014 278 7152 if you'd like to find out more. You can email us at nightstopsy@paulcharity.org.uk, and we're also on Facebook and Twitter under Nightstop South Yorkshire, so plenty of ways to get in touch if you can't make the session this evening but still like to find out more.
Brilliant, fantastic. And if you didn't catch those details, you can podcast the show, sheffieldlive.org. Just look for Communities Live under the shows page. But Amy Smith from Nightstop, thanks for coming in.